The year is 1993. Kris Kross wants you to jump. Fran Drescher is hired as the nanny. And Nintendo hopes you'll fall in love with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. But we're not here to figure out why John Leguizamo was cast as an Italian plumber, because today we're counting down Nintendo Power's 5 worst reviewed games of 1993. Known for its quality writing and wry sense of humor, the Rocky and Bullwinkle show was a cultural phenomenon when it first aired in the early 1960s. 30 years later, the cartoon was still popping up in syndication on channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. Perhaps that explains why THQ decided to pick up the license and release a series of 8 and 16-bit platformers. Nintendo Power wasn't impressed with this NES adaptation, noting that the awkward controls make the game frustrating to play. GamePro agreed with the middling score, giving it a 3 out of 5 and complaining that the mechanics aren't very good. 1993 was a big year for fighting games. Not only did Mortal Kombat make its console debut, but Street Fighter II Turbo wowed every critic that didn't work at Nintendo Power. But of all the fighting games released in 1993, it was Street Combat that garnered the worst reviews. The editors at Nintendo Power complained about the jerky animation and limited number of characters. That said, they did like the super moves, which largely ripped off better fighting games. They also liked the music, perhaps the best thing about Street Combat. Hey, remember all that stuff I said about the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends on the Nintendo Entertainment System? Well, it applies to this more expensive 16-bit adaptation. Nintendo Power hated this game, complaining that the play control is limited for each character and in some cases is awkward. And that's just the beginning of the scathing review. The magazine concluded that little of the actual humor of the cartoon is conveyed in the game. Perhaps sensing a bomb, no other magazine reviewed this THQ tragedy. For an era so concerned about the message being sent to young people, the Nintendo Entertainment System sure did have a lot of games based on R-rated movies. Total Recall, Friday the 13th, RoboCop, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and even Die Hard were turned into kid-friendly action games. You can add Lethal Weapon to the list of R-rated movies adapted to the NES. Though Nintendo Power wished Ocean Software had taken a pass on this buddy cop license. The game doesn't capture any of the feeling of the movie, the editors complained. They hated the gameplay and poor use of the property. Nintendo Magazine System agreed, giving this mediocre action game a below-average 49%. For as bad as it was on the Nintendo Entertainment System, Lethal Weapon was even worse on the Game Boy. This is Nintendo Power's lowest scoring Game Boy game, earning a measly 2 out of 5. In fact, this ties it with the rest of the magazine's low-scoring games, including Hatris, Rally Bike, Ultima Rune of Virtue 2, and Beauty and the Beast. The magazine hated the poor hit detection and awkward perspectives. GamePro disagreed, giving the game a surprising 4 out of 5 and praising the gameplay and large characters. I just made it through 2 Lethal Weapon reviews without calling anybody sugar tits. Yay me. Hey, thanks for watching our newest episode of Nintendo Power's Best and Worst. We only have 3 more episodes before the exciting season finale, so make sure and tune in next Tuesday for Nintendo Power's Best Reviewed Games of 1994. Also, if you missed last week's Best Reviewed Games of 1993, then click the link above and get caught up. In fact, don't forget that we have Nintendo Power Best and Worst lists starting all the way back in 1989. And I guarantee you'll never guess what game they picked as number 1. So do me a favor and click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.